Right, right? Shalom, shalom, right? First and foremost, I want to give all glory, honor, and praise unto the Most High God and His Son, Yahweh Shai, right? Who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? Brother Uriah, coming at you with a turned up Thursday through the Spirit, man, right? It's been a few weeks, man. You know, captivity has held me captive for the past few weeks, right? You know how Babylon is. It's very oppressing, right? Hey, they want you to work on their vineyard before you can work on your own vineyard, as it says in the book of Song of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 5 on down, roughly paraphrase, right? Shalom, Janah, Barbie Jones, right? Shalom to all the brothers and sisters that's tuned in through the Spirit, right? And you know, we're just gonna continue to push the truth day in and day out, right? You know, captivity, you know, it's not gonna last forever, right? So I bid you a mighty shalom to all the mighty brothers and sisters that's tuned in, that's enduring, that's watching the prophecies, that's keeping the commandments, and make sure they serve the Most High rather than serving themselves, right? So today's class, right, it's not going to be nothing deep and dark or overextended, right, but something rather like a current events, if you will, right? And you can see, the title is Watching Prophecy, right? And we're just gonna go over a couple key things that I've seen through the Spirit that the Lord revealed unto me. Couple things that I've, you know, just observed through the spiritual lens. Right, we're gonna tap into that just for a little bit. Right, I ain't gonna take much of y'all time, so let's go ahead and get in this thing. Right, um, so like I was reading just a comment. It's like he says, you know, brothers got the Hebraic tongue. You know what I'm saying? The way we pronouncing these words, man. A lot of these things be coming off as to us, right? But without further ado, let's go ahead and get in this thing, right? Let's go kick it off with the book of Second Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 1, right? Second Ezra, chapter 9, you know, at the top. And it says thus: He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, right? So first things first, the Lord gave a straight command, which is what? To measure the time diligently, right? Because hey, the world is starting to notice that the times are being sped up, right? Hey, we're almost in a new year, right? When you think about it, we're almost in a new year, right? We're in the month of July right now, right? Hey, January is down the street, right? It's 6 months away, right? The world. I seen a TikTok video, or it was on Instagram, I believe, and it was just a whole thread of people just talking about how times are being sped up, right? And all of that is for the elect's sake, according to what Matthew the 24th chapter, in verse 24 on down, right? So let's get another precept for that real quick. So we have to understand that hey, the times are speeding up. That means we don't have a lot of time left in this present world, right? All the wickedness we spent in this world doing evil, we have to match that evil and surpass it with good and righteousness. Because as the scriptures say, unless your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the scribes or Pharisees, then you won't make it to the kingdom, right? So let's get this. Sirach chapter 36. I'm gonna start at verse 6. It says, shew new signs and make other strange wonders. Glorify thy hand and thy right arm, that they may set forth thy wondrous works. So the scriptures said that the Most High is going to shoot forth new signs and strange wonders. Right? What's going on in Texas right now with these flash floods? Floods are just destroying Texas right now. Right? Hey, FEMA hasn't even been deployed, and these floods are going rampant. These are signs from the Most High that He's slowly but surely visiting the earth. right? It says, verse 7, raise up indignation and pour out wrath. Take away the adversary and destroy the enemy. That's going into what? Wars. Wars and rumors of wars, right? The Lord is plaguing the earth right now, specifically in the Middle East, so called, right? Right? He's stirring up the kings of the East right now, like it's prophesied in Revelation chapter 16, right? Iran, right? The Persians, the Medians, right? China, right? Israel, right? Ukraine, right? The Palestinians, so called, right? The Lord is plaguing these lands with fire and destruction, right? And it says what? Make the time short. Remember the covenant and let them declare thy wonderful works. And that's what we ought to be doing. We ought to be declaring the wonderful works of the Lord. Why? Because the time is short. Redeeming the time because these days are evil, right? Let's get another precept for that real quick. Let's go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 5. All right, Ephesians chapter 5. Let's say start at 14. All right. Right. The book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse start at 15. It says, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. So we ought to walk circumspectly. Understand what we're doing. Not floating around high-minded or on cloud nine, but understanding the days, the changes in the seasons, the changes of the times, the evils that are approaching. Verse 16 is the point. Redeeming the time because the days are evil. So there's not a lot of time left. Right? As the captains and officers always say, this is the fourth quarter. You got a couple seconds left, maybe a couple minutes, right? And you down by 3, right? We have to redeem this time, right? To make sure that we present ourselves holy before the Most High. All right. So let's go back to Second Ezra chapter 9, right? From the top. It says he answered me and said, it's like he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself. And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before. And Salakia, what are some of those signs, right? Salakia, what are some of those signs? Read Matthew the 24th chapter, right? It'll tell you those signs. The wars, the rumors of wars, right? The plagues and pestilences, right? Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, right? Earthquakes in diverse places, famines, right? These are the signs that we see. These are the signs. Hey, America is failing, right? I meant to put in the title, Watching Prophecy, Babylon Edition. I meant to put that. I guess it didn't go through though, right? Hey, Babylon is falling. Hey, when your food supply is getting cut short, that means what's next going to get cut short? Your water. When your water get cut short, hey, your electricity getting cut short. When your electricity get cut short, your jobs getting cut short, right? Your jobs get cut short, transportation getting cut short, right? It's a trickle effect, and these are the plagues that the Lord is smiting them Babylon with, right? So these are the signs that we should be looking for. Verse 2, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, right? So we have to understand these are the times that the Lord is visiting the earth, right? Shalom, Sister Mary Houston, right? Barakatah to the house of Daniel, right? So these are the times that the Lord is visiting the earth with fire, death, destruction, and pestilences, right? So we have to constantly measure the times diligently. right? Constantly be watching these prophecies, right? So let's go ahead and continue with the lesson, right? I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can share my screen because we're gonna touch on like I said, it's kind of like some live events, if you will, right? So we're gonna kick it off with this. Let me share my screen. All right, here we go. All right, so we're gonna kick it off with these travel bans, right? The travel bans were issued about about a month ago, right? But these things are still in effect, right? This is still a record. Matter of fact, this is still a record, right, of the so-called power that the Lord has given Donald Trump, if you will, right? Hey, Donald Trump views himself as a king, right? He views himself as a patriarch, right? And this is the power that he is moving with in these last days, right? Speeding up the times for the elect's sake through the will of the Most High God, right? So says Trump signs travel ban on nationals from 12 countries and restrictions on 7 more, right? What type of person has the power to do that? Right, let's go to Proverbs chapter 21. Right? Proverbs chapter 21, we're gonna start at the top. Right? The book of Proverbs, chapter 21 and verse 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. Right? So the king's heart is in the hand of the Most High. Right? Let's read on, verse 2. Every man, Salaki, every way of man is right in his own eyes. So man think he's just doing his own will, right? But the Lord pondereth the hearts. But the Lord is in control of these things. The Lord views these things, right? Kind of give these diverse spirits out in the earth, right? So let's look at this article a little bit, right? Because when you see Donald Trump issuing these bans, right, you have to understand, right? It's all for the spirit of prophecy, as is written in the book of Revelations, right? Shalom to really studied, right? Shalom, shalom. So let's look at this a little bit, right? Here we go. President Trump on Wednesday signed a proclamation barring travelers and immigrants from a dozen countries and restricting the entry of nationals of another 7 nations, citing concerns about national security. Now he's concerned about national security, right? So he says, right? He's concerned about national security. What about all these domestic threats that's going on, right? And when I'm referring to domestic threats, I'm not talking about the terrorists that attack America or Babylon, if you will. But what about the domestic threats within our own neighborhoods? The destruction of the so-called black man in his communities, the destruction of the so-called Hispanic man in his communities, right? Hey, the destruction of the so-called Haitians in their communities, right? Let's read on. It says Mr. Trump's proclamation fully bans the entry of foreigners from Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, right? And we know Israel is on all these different lands, according to James chapter 1 and verse 1, the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, or even Acts chapter 2, where the names that were listed from a diverse group of land masses, right? But specifically Haiti right here. I didn't want to key point, highlight that. Haiti is the home of who? The tribe of Levi, right? And look, we're going to touch on what he's doing to Levi right now, but I just wanted to make this key point, right? So let's read on. Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen, with certain exemptions. Mr. Trump's orders banned citizens of those countries seeking to come to the U.S. permanently as legal immigrants, as well as temporary visa holders like tourists, right? Now, if he's putting a travel ban on those countries to come to America, barring them or barring them from coming to America, what do you think he'll do for people that's trying to go to those different lands, right? That's almost like a banishment, if you will, or exile, right? Hey, and this is why people think or view him as himself as a king, right? Because hey, no other president has done something like this, right? Hey, but this is the pride of the so-called white man, right? So that was something I wanted to touch on a little bit, right? We're gonna get some more, right? We're gonna get some more on this, right? Because what do the scriptures say about this type of behavior or these type of prophecies? Let's go to Second Ezra, the 15th chapter, right? Second Ezra, chapter 15, and we're gonna start at verse 14, right? I'm gonna pull it up for y'all on the computer so y'all can read along if y'all will. All right, all right, here we go. The book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, and verse 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein." Now that right there, that's a cut, right? For you Christian Israelites, or you Israelite Christians, or you just Christians, or you just Israelites who believe that the heathen can be saved, right? That's a cut to your understanding of John chapter 3 and verse 16, right? The Bible says, "Woe," meaning destruction to the world, and them that dwell therein. So we know, right, in Isaiah 45 and 17, that Israel is a world. But in this context right here, specifically talking about the earth, the world of the earth, right? So destruction to the nations, right? And them that dwell therein, in the earth, right? For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. So it said one people going to stand up and they're going to fight against another nation of people. What is that going into? Race wars and riots, the uproars that we see in the streets, right? There was protests in Los Angeles. Hey, there was protests downtown Dallas. It wasn't really covered like that, but I be having insight on certain things where I just be traveling. I can see those things happening, right? There were riots in Vegas, right? So it said what? That one people is going to stand up to fight against another. So biblically, race wars are another sign of prophecy, right? You may ask, well, what are you talking about? I never seen that in the Bible. Right, let's go to the book of Jeremiah, right? The 46th chapter, right? Jeremiah chapter 46, right? We're going to start at verse 16. We're going to come back to that second Ezra, though. Let's go to Jeremiah. All right, here we go. Jeremiah, right? Where we at? Okay, kind. Right, Jeremiah chapter 46 and verse 16. It says, "He made many to fall. Yeah, one fell upon another." Going into what? Wars, right? Battles, right? Scourges, right? And discords among the people. And they said, Arise, and let us go again to our own people, and to the land of our nativity from the oppressing sword. Right? Because what are they going to be saying? They're going to have battles, right? They're going to say, Hey, let's get back to our own people. Right? We got to go dwell amongst our own nation. Right? Because, hey, it's too much violence going on. Right? Hey, if somebody was to attack us, we don't have no help. So we got to go join ourselves to our own kindred. All right, let's get another one. Go to Isaiah, the 13th chapter. Isaiah chapter 13, right? And we start at verse 13. Well, actually, let's start at verse 11, right? Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 11. And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity, right? So that's another cut for John 3:16, right? And it's also the precept for 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 14, right? The Most High God is saying, I'm going to punish this world for their evil. Because truth be told, this world is very evil, man. Right? This world is a land without any order, right? A land of darkness, as the scriptures say in Job, right? And the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than the fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore, I will shake the heavens. How's the Lord going to shake the heavens? With nuclear missiles, IBCM missiles, and things of such, right? Weapons of mass destruction. And the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts. Going into what? The booms and the earthquakes, the earth shaking when missiles hit it, right? And in the day of his fierce anger. Here's the point, verse 14. And it shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one unto his own land. So it said, hey, one people is going to be as a chased roe, or as a deer that's running from somebody, right? And as a sheep that no man taketh up. Because what? Nobody's going to be looking to help another nation. They're going to be looking to help their own people, right? Hey, the so-called black man going to be trying to run for the Edomites for help. They're going to turn to his own people, right? The so-called Hispanic man going to be running to the Asian man for help. They're going to turn to his own people, right? Verse 15. And every one that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Right? So, hey, in those days that are approaching, don't let a group of Edomites, redneck Edomites, catch you with a Edomite woman. Hey, you're gonna be thrust through, right? Because what? You was joined unto them, right? And like vice versa for the Edomites trying to cleave into you Jakes, right? You're gonna have to make a choice in those days. All right. Either you with your people or you against your people. And that's what it is. That's thus said the Lord. Right? So let's sit on that. Let's go back to Second Ezra, right? Chapter 15. All right. We'll go to verse 16. All right. So where we at? Right. So like I'm trying to catch up on these comments real quick. Make sure ain't no questions going on. All right, kind of. Right. So verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings, nor princes, right? And this is a perfect example of what's going on. Because do you think in the kingdom, Yahweh Shah will be allowing riots and rebellions among the people? Right? You have to think about these things, right? It says they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Hey, if somebody decided to rise up and rebel against the house of Yahweh Shai, against Israel in those days, man, as the scriptures say, they're gonna be destroyed, right? The house of Esau gonna be turned to stubble, right? The plague of everyone who fight against Jerusalem gonna be met with what? Holes in their eyes and destruction, burning flesh, right? But it says what? They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? The what's the extremist group called? The Backdoor Boys or something like that. It's a group of Edomite extremists, right? They was out there supporting Donald Trump and them when they stormed the White House, right? Or even just the most plainest one, the KKK, right? In those days, these extremists and the Aryan so-called nation, right? All these people, they're going to be at their peak in these race wars, right? Destroying and ravishing, right? But here's the point on this travel ban stuff. Verse 17: a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And that's thus saith the Lord, right? These are the words of prophecy. These are the words of truth. Why? Because they came to pass, right? Hey, Donald Trump, through the inspiration of the Most High God, has made this prophecy to come to pass by issuing a travel ban. Man can't deny the Bible. Why? Because it's coming to pass, right? A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. He put what, 12, 19 actually, 19 countries on a travel ban to America? Come on now. Verse 18, let's read on. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And these are the days which are coming upon the earth, right? Great tribulation, right? Spoils, right? And things as such, right? So let's get another precept. Let's go to the book of Luke, the second chapter, right? Luke chapter 2. I'll show you at the top. Just want to grab this quick precept. Luke chapter 2 and verse, start at the top, right? Because watch this. Watch this right here. You're not going to believe this, right? Luke chapter 2 and verse 1. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree, right? We have verse 1 right here, right? It's like that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. Now, what are tariffs, right? What are tariffs? It said the whole world was going to be taxed, right? What are tariffs? What is Donald Trump doing to these other nations? Matter of fact, let's go ahead and look it up. What are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes. Hey, we could close the computer down. We don't even have to read everything else, right? But let's go ahead and keep reading, right? There we are. Tariffs are taxes imposed by governments on imported goods and services aimed at influencing trade, raising revenue, and protecting domestic industries. That's plain as day, right? That's plain as day, right? Donald Trump is literally taxing the whole world. Let's see who he taxed. So I know I got this thing on caps lock, but I be needing to emphasize certain things. Okay, boom. Here we are. Right? Which countries have been hit by latest U.S. tariffs? Trump has raised the total tariff rate on most Chinese goods to 145%. Right? So let's see what nations are being affected by Trump's tariffs. The EU or the European Union, China, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan, India, UK. And the thing is, he even taxed his own alliances, right? You can't tax your own alliance. How you gonna expect them to want to fight for you, right? Or to send be at your aid in times of war, right? I digress. Let's read on. India, UK, Switzerland, Thailand, Malaysia, Brazil, Singapore, Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Andorra, Angola, and the list goes on and on, right? The whole world, these are all different parts of the world, right? And they have been taxed at the hand of Donald Trump, right? So these are some more words of prophecy, man. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is Caesar Augustus, but these are the types of prophecies and scriptures that have double fold meanings, right? Let's read on. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria, and all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And it even trickles down into what? Your own citizens. Because what? When you raise tariffs on certain nations, especially nations that your country frequents with a lot, right? Your citizens now have to pay double to those countries, right? Just to get our basic necessities. All right. Let's get another one. Let's go to Acts, the 18th chapter. All right. Acts chapter 18 and verse 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens. It's like it. All right, here we go. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth. Why? Because he was teaching the Jews in Athens. We read Acts chapter 17, right? And came to Corinth and found a certain Jew named Aquila and born in Pontus. So it's giving you another audience of who was in Corinth at the church of Corinth. Jews, right? Named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome. So what is that? How does that tie in today's lessons or in today's political views, right? So what do we have here? We just went over taxations and tariffs, right? But now we're looking at expulsions and banishments, deportations, right? That's what we're looking at with this right here. It says that Claudius, right? Let's look up who Claudius is, right? It said that Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome. So he deported the Jews out of Rome. Claudius Caesar. I spelled that wrong, but Caesar and Kaiser is the same, right? That Caesar is the true pronunciation of Kaiser is the pronunciation of Caesar, right? So here we are. Tiberius Claudius Caesar Augustus, right? So he's a Edomite Roman emperor. And look at him. Look like an effeminate freak. Look like a strange man who like little boys. Hey, look at this. That's how you know he was a creep. Because when they make this type of artwork about you, yeah, you know something is wrong with you, right? Look at that. Strange, man. Look like he suffered from a dwarfism, right? Look at this. I'm talking about look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? I digress, right? Let's get back into this. Look at this creepy Idumean. Besides, he wants to damn deport people. Hey, he kind of look like Trump a little bit. If you got eyes to see that, right? Kind of look like Trump. So let's go back to it. Acts, Book of Acts. The 18. Gotta get this creep off my computer, man. Acts 18:2. Right? Because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome. So Claudius Caesar, right? He demanded that the Israelites be removed from Rome, man. So what does that have to do with us today, right? What does that have to do with us today? Watch this. All right, look at this. Trump administration ends legal protections for 500,000 Haitians who now face deportation. Oh, okay. So Northern Kingdom, Northern Kingdom already catching hell with ICE and deportations, right? Right? You so-called Hispanics, Guatemalans, right? So-called Puerto Ricans, right? Dominicans. They're going through hell already, facing deportations. But now it's not just coming upon the Northern Kingdom, but upon the Southern Kingdom, right? Them Haitians from the tribe of Levi are brothers, right? And here's the thing: you can't tell who's Haitian just by looking at them, right? So that means what? The so-called Negro, you so-called African Americans who are from the tribe of Judah, you're gonna get caught up into that thing too, right? Hey, does not the scripture say that Judah and Israel were oppressed together? Matter of fact, let's get that. Let's get that real quick. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33, straight to the point. Right? Right, Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. Straight to the point. It says thus. Thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel, going into who? The northern kingdom, right? Gad, Reuben, Simeon, right? Issachar, Naphtali, Asher, so on and so forth. And the children of Judah. Judah is the progenitor of so-called African Americans, right? But Judah is the leader of the southern kingdom. We read First Kings, the 12th chapter. We read about the split of the kingdom, right? Judah, it was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They always dwelt amongst each other, right? So the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. Hey, we bring this precept out at camp all that. Look at that, man. That's strange, man. Esau just be doing strange, freaky, lewd things, man. This is supposed to be a biblical site, right? And you got these type of ads popping up, right? That's weird, man. Right? But Slakius, that's Satan, man. That's Satan, right? But let's get back to it, man. The children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And right, so as I was saying, right, we bring this precept out at camp all the time, and people try to deny, right? People try to say, "Oh, that's not talking about Hispanics, right? That's not talking about you so-called black people." Well, who the hell is it talking about? Because as it pertains to this present time, here we go again. As it pertains to this present time, we're the only people in Babylon, in America, that's being oppressed together at the same time, at the same exact or in the same exact manner, right? Deportations and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go, right? And so these people hate us. They want us out their country, but they refuse to send us back to our homeland, right? They refuse to let us go back to the land of Jerusalem, right? They refuse to give us our kingdom. But that's okay because the kingdom is the Lord's, man. And He's gonna give it to us, man. The Lord gonna set those crowns upon our head, right? Our inheritance is not here in America, right? This is not our risk. Let's get that. Hey, this place is set up for the heaven of the so-called white man and all these other nations. But this is not our rest, right? Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Why? Because it is polluted. How's it polluted? It's polluted with the blood of our forefathers and foremothers. How's it polluted? It's polluted with homosexuality, right? Unclean foods, unclean beasts, right? Unclean people, right? There's no order. There's not a higher, the Israelites are not ruling, right? The law is slack, right? Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. That's why the Lord said, "Come out of her, my people." Not meaning physically leave this place, but you got to get your spirit out of here, man, right? You got to get your spirit out of the spirit of America. Now, how do we do that? Let's go to Romans, the 12th chapter, right? Romans, the 12th chapter, right? I'm going to start at the top. Romans 12 and 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice. So we ought to be a living sacrifice, right? Presenting our bodies for the preserving our bodies for the Most High, right? Not defiled with idols, not defiled with unclean meats, not defiled with the spirit of a horror spirit of America or Babylon, right? Not defiled with the unclean spirits of these other nations and their strange rituals and witchcrafts, right? Holy. What's holy? Leviticus 20 and 26. The law is holy, right? Acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Meaning, hey, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to leave off from whatever the world got going on and align your mind with the scriptures, right? They may prove what is that good and acceptable. and perfect will of the Most High. Right? So that's how you leave Babylon or come out of Babylon. Right? It's via your mind. Right? So yeah, let's read. I'm not gonna read a lot of this, but just a little bit, right? Right. It says the termination of temporary protected status, or TPS, applies to about 500,000 Haitians, Slovakia, who are already in the United States, some of whom have lived here for more than a decade. It is coming. It's like it is coming 3 months after the Trump administration revoked legal protections. Yeah, for thousands of Haitians who arrived legally in the country under a humanitarian parole program, and it is part of a series of measures implemented to curb immigration. Right? Hey, man, this land is defiled, man, and the only way it can be cleansed is by the blood of him who spilled it. That's in our law, Numbers 35, right? Numbers 35 and verse 35. Hey, they're doing the most on stolen land, right? That show you the pride of the so-called white man, right? Was there more I wanted on that? I don't want to close it out on that, right? I believe that's all I had on that, right? Let's get a couple more precepts, then we're gonna close out through the spirit, right? Let's go to the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, right? We're just gonna read down a little bit, right? Matthew chapter 24, right? Let's start at verse. Let's start at verse 3. All right, Matthew 24 and verse 3. And as he sat upon the and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Right? So that means what? The end of the world is rapidly approaching, right? And these words are being quoted thousands of years ago, right? I'm talking about thousands of years ago, right? So if they were thinking about the end of the world thousands of years ago, that should put you in the mind frame of like, damn, how close are we? Right? How close are we to the end of the world? To the end of the rulership of all these nations and the kingdom of the Most High. All right? Let's read. And Yahweh answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. They were doing this in the time of Acts, right? A man called Bar Jesus, right? Right? They was doing this in those times, man, and they're doing it now, right? It's this one guy on TikTok. Well, it's a few of them actually. Man, I done seen them on social media. I done seen them in person. They come up to camp saying that I'm Christ, I'm this, I'm that, right? Let no man deceive you, right? Hey, because if these people was actually Christ, right? Don't you think we'll have a kingdom right now, right? Don't you think that Israel will be in rulership and these other nations will be bound down, right? Look at this. Strange, man. Let's read on. Verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet, right? Russia versus Ukraine. The end is not yet, right? The Koreas versus the Koreas. The end is not yet. Israel versus Hamas. The end is not yet. Israel versus Iran. The end is not yet. These things must come to pass. Why? Because it's building up to something. Ultimately, to the Lord's decision. And as you read about in Joel chapter 3 and verse 2 on down, Armageddon, right? Verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. These things are what we're seeing right now, right? These are the times that we're living in. The fall of Babylon 2025 AD, right? Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. It said these are just the beginnings of the sorrows, right? It's not at its final peak yet, right? These are just the beginnings. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Right? These are the times that are rapidly approaching for the Israelites. Literally, whenever you hear a nation talking about the Israelites, they hate us. They spew bigotry out of their mouths when they want to speak about us. Right? They hate us. And pretty soon, when the power shall stand in the hand of men, it said what? They shall kill you. They shall deliver you up to be afflicted. Meaning what? They're going to try to seek us out. They're going to try to find out where we live. They're going to try to find out where our camp location is, where our congregation is, right? And they're going to seek to overthrow us, right? Verse 10. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many, right? Verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Right? But here's the point right here. Verse 13, we're going to close it out. But he that shall endure unto the end, it said he that shall endure unto the end. It didn't say you endure for a little bit, then you fell out the truth, right? But it said, hey, he that shall endure unto the end, unto the returning of Yahweh. And you was falling, you got back up again and you repented, kept the commandments, started going to the feast days, you grew your beard out, right? You stopped fornicating, right? And you stopped eating unclean meats, right? You stopped hating your brother in your heart, and so on and so forth. He that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved, right? And with that, that's my time. Lord willing, brothers and sisters were edified today through the Spirit, just looking through these things, you know, just making sure that we're observing the times very diligently and observing our spirits, right? Because it's real easy to get caught up in the cares of this life, right? I had to catch myself, man, just with certain things, praying more, fasting more, right? Because these things, hey, they could fall little by little. And unless you observe those things, right, and unless you're paying attention, hey, you'll get caught up with the flood, right? Pun intended for what's happening, how the Lord is destroying certain parts of Texas right now, right? But Lord willing, brothers and sisters were edified. Lord willing, we continue to endure, right, and overcome the afflictions of Babylon and achieve a greater kingdom, right? And with that, Shalom, Kwame Ashala.